Alright, just a quick build video for you. This is a set I've been using lately. I've had a lot of trouble with heavy armor, as heavy armor is really strong this patch. And I needed some penetration, so this is the solution that I came up with. And I gotta say it's working pretty well, so just getting into it, I got the slime crosslet. All my armor is impenetrable. And I've got tri-stat glyphs pretty much all over everything. It gives me a pretty good bit of health to play with. And gives me a little stamina as well. The second set I've got is a crafty Alphix Jurgen. This basically boosts up all your Magica stats. It gives you a lot. The next set that I'm using is the Spinner set. I've got one Magica Recovery, one Arcane, 2 spell damages, and in the protective trait. I found that having protective here really helps me quite a bit out there, so that's what I've used. I've got a Spinner's Inferno Staff. I've got it in the Sharpen trait with a shock damage glyph on it. I've got the Restoration Staff of Potentates on the back bar, since I'm not really concerned with having all the benefits of spinners on the back bar. This is just for the general damage reduction you take from players. So if you're trying to streak away from somebody and you have this on the back bar, that does protect you. So in general, I've started to use the spinner set just because the spinners gives you a lot of spell penetration. And I also moved from the Mage Stone on over to the Lover, which also gives you physical and spell penetration, as well as a Sharpened Staff. So basically we've got a lot of things going for us there in terms of spell penetration, and it's really helped me out against the tankier targets and that sort of thing. Going into my skill set, I've got Force Pulse, I've got Rune Cage. Rune Cage has been a really good CC as far as trapping enemies and that sort of thing. This seems to be especially good on Nightblades. You know, once they appear, you only got maybe a split second to trap them, and once you do, you can do damage to them or whatever. I've also got Crystal Fragments and Endless Fury and Hardened Ward. And I've also got Temporal Guard, and this is a Psijic Order ultimate, and what it does is once you hit it, it's a fairly cheap ultimate. Once you hit it, you can go back 4 seconds ago, and it'll give you your resources back. And so you can be streaking away from a group of people, and then hit this and go backwards and then streak the other way. A lot of times you'll lose them that way, but it'll get you out of a lot of situations. But it also gives you minor protection, which reduces your damage taken by 8%. Now, this isn't an exact science, but what you're going to do is, this is almost like having another buff, kind of like Boundless Storm, where you have Major Resolve and spell resistance to 50 to 80. I believe this comes up to about 9% damage reduction. This is 8. So having that really helps you quite a bit. So I've got Critical Surge. This is the one to have, not the other morph. This heals you for 3960 health every time you do a critical damage. Now, just something to keep in mind: if you hit with Force Pulse, you've got 3 chances to land a critical hit. So basically, using that, I'll proc this. I've got Streak. This is probably one of the most important skills a sorcerer can have. If you're effective with this, you'll really get around a lot of damage, and you'll stun a lot of players and that sort of thing, and they're not going to be able to keep up with you. I've got Boundless Storm. This is a fairly cheap skill to have, and it will give you a major expedition for 4 seconds, so you can be running around and you can sprint, and for 4 seconds you'll have major expedition. So that gives you a lot of speed. I've got Dark Conversion. Dark Conversion heals me. Here you have 9708 health and 3600 Magica instantly, an additional 2400 Magica over 20 seconds. This is an invaluable skill to have. You can hit this one, Radiant Regeneration, and go back to this, and these two working together will probably keep you out of trouble. Which brings me to Radiant Regeneration. Now, I started using this. A lot of people will use Hardened Ward and another shield on top of that, but I just have one shield. Typically what happens is if you get into a fight and you've got this up for 10 seconds, this will do a really good job of healing you inside your bubble. So once you if you're doing this right, and you keep your Hardened Ward up, you can basically hit this for 10 seconds and not have to worry about it. And it really does a very good job of keeping you alive. I had the other morph, Rapid Regeneration, which basically heals you for that amount inside of 5 seconds. Well, it's good to have. You're going to have to more or less constantly hit it and have it go off again, and it's kind of hard to keep that up since it's only a 5-second skill. Having this going in the background will do a lot to keep you out of trouble, and you leaving your time to concentrate on other things. I've got Ice Comet, and it hits for 18108. And buffed up is 19313. Now if I went to the Mages Guild, now I'm almost at 20k. This is the morph to have. The other one is a little bit weaker. Not much, just a little bit. You know, why not have the strongest one, right? And so you want to have this one preferably, and it also snares enemies a little bit for a while, so they get in about a 50% snare for 5 seconds. That'll help you. That'll also help them to stay in the area. Now, I think this goes up to about 22 or 23 once I hit him with my restoration staff, which kind of brings me to another point. I've got the infused set, which increases my weapon and spell damage by 452 for 5 seconds. I've had it. I've had my damage with the spell damage glyph. It was all the way up to 3345, I believe. Tapping him with this will increase your weapon and spell damage by quite a bit. I want to say it was maybe a little bit more, like 600, as I remember. I'm not absolutely sure, but it seemed like I was running around with about 2700 spell damage, and I'd hit it, and then I'd be all the way up to 3345. But anyway, this is a good way to keep your damage up. Another option, if you can find it, and I haven't been able to find it yet, is to use a what do you call that? That weapon, defending. Use something with the defending trait, and that'll give you additional resistance as well, which is good to have. But this also really helps your damage. I guess it's up to you how you want to play. But anyway, one of my friends showed me a trick, and I've seen it before, but I've just not used it all that much because Ice Comet really wasn't giving me the results I wanted. But if you hit Ice Comet and just before the enemy is about to get struck, you can streak through them and they can't block this, or you can hit them with Rune Cage. This stun cannot be blocked. Now they can dodge roll this, but they can't block it. But if they're dodge rolling and not blocking, and Ice Comet's going to hit them pretty hard anyway. So that's a real good way to do it. So basically, whenever you've got them down to a point where you think you're going to kill them, you tap them with this, then you hit Ice Comet, and then you either streak or Rune Cage, and then you're going to want to flip back to your front bar really quick. Reason being is your spinner set is active on your front bar. So anyway, I guess that's about it. Getting into the champion points. This is where I have them, and I'm not saying this is the best way, but this is what I have. I've got 24% in the Warlord, a little in the Siphoner. This is kind of designed to be a nuisance, more or less, just to show something that they need to purify off of. I've got 75 in the Mooncalf, 64 in the Arcanist, 33 into Tenacity, 15% into Tumbling, 21% critical strikes, so if I strike with a crit, it will actually go 21% higher. I've got quite a bit into Spell Erosion, and 13% into Elemental Expert, and I've got 72 into Master at Arms. Nothing there. It reduces your damage against direct attacks by 20%. I've got some into Ironclad. I've got some into Spell Shields, some into Resistance. Resistance paired up with Impenetrable Armor will give you that 3000 number, so, and that's about where you want to be, I would say, as a minimum. I've got some into Light Armor Focus, some into Elemental Defenders, some into Hardy. I've got 44 into Bastion. This helps your shields. And that's about it. The feud I use is the Clockwork Citrus Fillet. So that gives me a pretty good set of stats to work with. And as far as potions goes, I find that if you're dealing with Nightblades, of course you're going to want a stealth detection and immune to knockback, just so you can see them. I'd say about 95% of the time, Nightblades aren't going to be that much of an issue for you. You pop this, they can't take the pressure, and they're going to die pretty quick. So this is ideal. But I find if you're fighting large groups of people or long fights, you're going to want some sort of tri-stat potion. I've been using this primarily for the stamina. My stamina does have that tendency to run out. So this and Dark Deal. This really helps all that. And with this, my sustain is more or less acceptable. This is the potion that I use if I want to do a lot of damage. It gives me a knockback and immunity for about 10 seconds. Major Prophecy, which is 2191 spell critical, and of course Magica. So if I take this, now I'm all the way up to 48% critical. That's really nice to have in fights and that sort of thing. But anyway, that's one of the potions I use. I've got one that restores health and stamina, which I really don't know what that's doing there. I've got the Essence of Invisibility. This is a really good potion to have if you get into a sticky situation and you want to disappear. You can go ahead and do that. Sometimes I use this when I'm going to the center of Imperial City and going against groups of players there while they're fighting the boss or whatever. I'll go in and harass them and kill a few here and there, and we'll kind of go back and forth. But that's basically the potions I use. Long drawn out fights, you're definitely going to want to use this. Nightblade's this. If you're in a situation where you think you can destroy somebody fairly quickly, this is really good to have. It gives you a lot of it gives you extra critical, and the critical also applies to your health as well, so your heals can crit as well, and that's one of the reasons it's good to have high critical. This works pretty well, and of course Essence of Invisibility. Now as far as tri-stat foods, I've tried it. I just don't have the sustain that I would like. I actually changed this over to Magica. I did have spell damage before, so I've got this paired with this, and it seems to work pretty well. So once you're in a fight, you just have to remember, be shielded up, have radiant regeneration. This gives you about 10 seconds, and you can also hit this and use this as well, and you'll bring back up to health pretty quickly. This will also give you quite a bit of health over time, and this can crit as well. So this is a really good skill to have. Let me see. I don't know where the Lover Monostone is. I'll put a link in the description. But anyway, I guess that's the build. Basically, I've got about 3329 in penetration, plus what I have here, 2700, and I also have a sharpened staff, plus all the points I have into champion points right here, which is another 4900. So all these things working together have really given me quite a bit of spell penetration on heavy armor. I was really having a heck of a time with heavy armor in this patch. I mean, I was hitting hard. You know, my crystal frags, they would hit buffed up is a little over 1400. When I had my spell damage glyph, it was like 1500 and something. And I was hitting him with that, and it just wasn't doing that much damage at all. So I had to figure something out. And I think with this build, I have a pretty successful solution to that. It works really, really well, and it really knocks him out. Now, if you're using a build like this, you know, you're going to get a lot of you know, hate mail, or, you know, hate tells or whatever, because basically you're gonna run through them. But I don't know, you just can't take it personal. I'm just here to maybe have a few drinks and have a good time and that sort of thing. I'm not that serious about it. You know, I think that if you're getting to that point, maybe it's time to not play the game anymore or something like that. You know, I can't get that serious about it. But there's a lot of good people too out there that they're just in it for the competition as well. But yeah, I'm just here for the fun, and you know, for friends and that sort of thing. Win or lose, you can't get mad at the whole situation. There is a lot wrong with the game, you know, in terms of lag and things not working and that sort of thing. But overall, it's a pretty good setup. You know, you can come here. It's a pretty interesting little world, and you know, you can see your friends and make raids and that sort of thing. And that's what it's really all about. So anyway, I guess that's my 2 cents. Can't think of anything else. Just remember, Slime Claw, Impenetrable. I just haven't gotten around to try stat glyphing this yet. I may not even bother with that. You have Slime Claw for your added damage. Crafty Alphix for your Max Magica. Spinners for your penetration. Sharpened Staff for penetration. And of course, when you're on your back bar, this is typically my escape bar, so I have this. Now, if I wanted to, of course, you know, I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I could put this on my back bar as well. But I haven't done that. Generally, when I'm fighting and I actually need the protection, I'm on my front bar, so I've kept this here. But I do have this to finish off an enemy. So I'll use this, streak through them. But then before that comment hits, you really want to switch back to the front bar, because your front bar is where you're going to get your penetration. So anyway, yeah, I think that's about it. If you have any ideas or input you want to put into the comments, that's fine. I'm going to put a link to another video where Perch Pelican actually is using the skill Temporal Guard in a really good way, and it'll show you just what this can give you. It's a really interesting skill. As a sorcerer, you can really make use of this. But anyway, yeah, I guess that's about it. And I'm going to go ahead and upload this. And I guess I'll see you guys out there. Take care.